The man in black. It was a quiet morning at the military shooting range. On the edge of the Mojave Desert, the sun had barely risen, casting a golden hue over the sand and steel. The range was usually reserved for elite forces, but today it was different. Today, civilians were allowed in for a charity event organized by the Veterans Outreach Program. The Marines had already lined up in neat rows, adjusting scopes, loading mags, and cracking jokes. Among them, wearing a plain black shirt, jeans, and sunglasses, stood a man no one seemed to recognize. He had no camera crew, no entourage, no special attention. He just stood there silently, holding a standard issue rifle, looking down the line of targets like it was just another Sunday. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't ask questions. He just waited his turn. The Marines noticed his calm, his stance, the way he held the rifle, not like someone playing pretend, but like someone who had done this before, for real. One of them, Lance Corporal Jeff Michaels, leaned over to his buddy and whispered, "Dude, is that who I think it is?" The buddy shrugged. "Nah, can't be. Why would Keanu Reeves be at a military range with no cameras?" "I dunno, man. Look at him." The man stepped forward. When his name was called, the range officer, a retired gunnery sergeant, handed him his ammo. "You ever fired one of these?" The officer asked with a smirk. The man simply nodded. "A few times." He loaded the weapon smoothly, checked the sights, and took a breath. Then he fired, not wildly, not hurried, just calm, precise, deadly shots. Pop, pop, pop. Every bullet hit dead center. The range grew silent. Some laughed nervously, others stared. But one man, standing at the edge of the field with his arms crossed, narrowed his eyes. He was a Navy SEAL commander named Jacob Voss, known for being sharp, quiet, and extremely hard to impress. Commander Voss stepped forward. "Hey," he said, almost casually. "Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" The man turned, and for a second, Commander Voss's face changed. His eyes dropped slightly, not to the man's hands or weapon, but to his inner wrist. There it was, a tattoo, faded but sharp. A hawk in flight, talons out, wrapping around a serpent. Voss froze. That tattoo wasn't for show. That mark had history. It was the emblem of an off-the-books operation, SEAL Task Unit Phoenix, a unit so secret, even most of the Navy didn't know it existed. It had been disbanded after a mission went sideways 12 years ago. Only 9 men ever wore that mark, and 8 of them were confirmed dead. "That's impossible," Voss said softly, his voice almost shaking. "You're not on any list. You're supposed to be gone." The man finally removed his sunglasses. The air changed. Keanu Reeves stood there, not as an actor, not as a celebrity, but as something else entirely, something buried. "I was," he said quietly. "Until now." The Marines went silent. Phones stayed in pockets. For once, no one wanted a selfie. They wanted answers. Commander Voss stepped closer. His face had gone pale. He looked at Keanu like he'd seen a ghost. "Your ghost hawk," he whispered. "But that mission." Keanu looked at the sand. "I lived, but not without cost." Voss shook his head, stunned. "You saved that unit. You dragged 3 men out of hell. We heard you died in the crash." Keanu's voice cracked for the first time. "I wish I had." The silence deepened. Some Marines stepped back, not out of fear, out of respect. A few had tears in their eyes, though they didn't know why. And then, slowly, Voss lifted his hand and saluted. A real salute, sharp, full of weight. And Keanu, hesitant at first, returned it. The sun continued to rise. And the story, the real story, was only beginning. The scars he carried after the salute. There was silence, but not the kind that comes from awkwardness. It was the kind that came from respect, deep, wordless respect. The kind you only find among people who have seen things most others never will. Keanu looked away from Voss and stepped back from the line. He placed the rifle gently on the table, like it was something sacred. A few Marines started whispering. They still weren't sure what they had just witnessed. To them, he was John Wick, a movie star. But what they had just seen, it didn't feel like acting. It felt like muscle memory, like truth. Commander Voss followed Keanu away from the range. The two men walked side by side in silence, boots crunching on gravel, until they reached the shade of a tall dessert tree. "How long have you been back?" Voss finally asked. "Years," Keanu said. "But not really here." Voss studied him. "You never reached out. Not even to let us know you were alive." Keanu looked down at his hands. "I wasn't ready. I didn't want to be found." "Why?" Now Voss asked. "Why today?" Keanu sighed. "Because something's happening. Something I thought was buried. And I need help." Voss blinked. "Help with what?" Keanu didn't answer right away. Instead, he lifted the sleeve on his right arm. Underneath was another tattoo, faded, angry, and clearly burned over once. It was a number. And below it, a symbol, one that made Voss's eyes go wide. "No." Voss whispered. That can't be real. That program was shut down. It was destroyed." Keanu shook his head. "Not all of it. Not everyone walked away." Voss clenched his jaw. "You're saying they're trying to bring it back?" Keanu looked him in the eyes. "They already have." The commander took a step back. His hands trembled just slightly. "Tell me everything," Voss said. Keanu nodded, but his face looked tired, like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Not here. Not now. Later. For now. I just needed to see if you were still the same man." "You mean, still alive?" Voss asked. "No," Keanu said softly. "Still someone I could trust." Back at the range, the Marines had gathered in small groups, talking quietly. No one was joking anymore. They'd all seen the way Voss saluted Keanu, and they'd seen the pain in Keanu's eyes. Lance Corporal Jeff Michaels kept staring toward the tree line. "You think he was really one of them?" he asked his friend. "What do you mean?" The friend replied. "Ghost Hawk," Jeff said. "My dad used to tell stories about that guy. Said he was like a myth, a soldier who never missed, who saved a whole team from a black site, then vanished. But that was a long time ago." His friend said. "Keanu doesn't even look that old." Jeff shrugged. "Maybe pain keeps you young." Later that evening, Keanu sat alone in a small, empty room inside the range facility. It was quiet. The kind of quiet that made you hear everything. The creak of the wood, the ticking of a wall clock, the hum of old lights. He took a photo out of his wallet. It was worn, the edges frayed. In the photo were 5 men, all in uniform, all smiling. He was one of them, younger, eyes full of something he no longer carried. Maybe hope. Maybe purpose. He touched the face of the man next to him in the photo. "I'm sorry," he whispered. A knock came at the door. Voss stepped in, holding a file, thick, sealed, stamped with an old red tag that read, "Classified, eyes only." "I pulled this from my archives," Voss said. "You sure you want to go back into this?" Keanu didn't answer. He just opened the file. Inside were photos, names, coordinates, old mission logs, and something else, a name written in black ink, a name Keanu hadn't seen in years. His hands trembled, his breath caught. "They found her," he whispered. Voss narrowed his eyes. "Who?" Keanu's voice cracked. "My sister." Outside, the sun had begun to set. The sky burned orange and red, casting long shadows across the range. Most of the Marines had gone. The event was over, but something deeper had started. Keanu stepped outside, clutching the file. His face was pale, haunted, but there was fire in his steps now. Because what had been buried wasn't just a mission. It was family. It was betrayal. And it was coming back. The file that should not exist. Small room inside the range facility had gone quiet again. But something heavy hung in the air. Keanu sat with the file open on the table in front of him. Each page felt like a whisper from the past, each name, like a wound being reopened. Voss leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his jaw tight. "I don't understand," he said. "Your sister, I thought she died in the bombing." Keanu shook his head slowly. "We were told she did. But this file, it says otherwise." He turned one of the pages around. There was a blurry surveillance photo, taken at night, in some foreign town Keanu couldn't recognize. But the face, it was unmistakable. A little older, different haircut. But it was her. "That's Mia," Keanu said, voice breaking. "My little sister." Double quotes. Voss rubbed his temples. "What is she doing in this file?" This is Phoenix Intel, deep intel. Everything in here is connected to Project Echo. Keanu looked up sharply. You just said it. Project Echo. I thought that name was erased. Voss nodded slowly. Me too. It was shut down. Burned. Buried. But it's alive, Keanu said. And they've got Mia. Project Echo was something that never made the news, never made the books, and never made it past whispers. It was meant to build a new kind of soldier, a soldier who could kill without orders, follow a mission without memory, live in shadows, and vanish without trace. They used volunteers at first, then they used prisoners, then civilians. When Keanu was Ghost Hawk, he'd stumbled across one of their black sites during a mission in northern Syria. What he found there changed him. Children, young women, all drugged, all trained like machines. He rescued 3 of them before the whole place went up in flames. But his sister, she was never supposed to be part of it. She was studying medicine, he whispered. She never signed up for this. Voss sat across from him. Then how? Keanu looked straight at him. I think someone gave her up. Someone from the inside. That night, the 2 men stayed in the room for hours, going page by page through the file. At some point, the door creaked open and Lance Corporal Jeff Michaels stepped in. He looked unsure, nervous even. Sir, Jeff said, addressing Voss, sorry to interrupt, but I think you should see this. Voss raised an eyebrow. What is it? Jeff held up his phone. We got a visitor outside the fence. He's asking for Ghost Hawk by name. Keanu stood up immediately. Description. Jeff hesitated. Middle-aged, eye patch, left arm limp, scar on his chin. Key news. Heart nearly stopped. No, it can't be. You know him? Voss asked. Keanu nodded slowly. His name is Bishop. He was my handler. Back when I was still part of Phoenix. Voss stood too. I thought Bishop died in the fall of Kirkuk. That's what they wanted us to think, Keanu said. But if he's here, this is bigger than I feared. They stepped outside into the dark desert night. The stars were out, silent witnesses to a world few would ever understand. Near the outer fence of the range stood a tall figure, his black coat flapping in the wind. The eye patch was real, so was the limp. He turned as they approached, his face, weathered and lined, lit up slightly when he saw Keanu. So it's true, Bishop said. The ghost returns. Keanu didn't smile. You were supposed to be dead. Bishop gave a dry chuckle. Aren't we all? Voss raised his weapon slightly. What do you want? Bishop looked at him calmly. I want to help, because Project Echo is hunting her, and I know where they're taking her. Keanu's voice was sharp. Where? Bishop looked around. Not here. Too many ears, too many eyes. But there's a safe house 30 miles north. We'll go tonight. Why? Now, Keanu asked. Why come to me now? Bishop looked tired, like a man who'd run from shadows for too long. Because you're the only one who ever walked out. And because you're her brother. If anyone can bring her back, it's you. Keanu nodded. Double quotes. We leave in 30 minutes. He said. Back inside. Keanu packed quickly. No gear that would stand out. No tech that could be traced. Voss handed him a sidearm. But Keanu hesitated. Still not a fan of carrying. He muttered. Voss smirked. Some habits die hard. Keanu tucked the weapon away anyway. He didn't plan on using it. But something inside told him he might have to. Just as he was leaving, Jeff caught up with him again. Sir. Keanu, whatever I should call you. Jeff Stammered. Keanu paused. Just Keanu. Double quotes. Jeff nodded. I just want to say, thank you, for what you did today. You reminded us that being quiet doesn't mean being weak. Keanu smiled faintly. Thanks, kid. Bring her home, Jeff added. Keanu didn't answer. He just walked into the night. As the truck rumbled north through the desert, Bishop explained everything. After Phoenix fell, Echo took its place. Same mission, different mask. They learned from our mistakes. They used better tech, deeper control, and no morals. What do they want with Mia? Keanu asked. They don't want her. They need her, Bishop said. She's not just your sister. She's one of the few left with the old code. Keanu's eyes narrowed. What code? Bishop looked straight ahead. The kill switch. The truck kept driving. And the night kept getting darker. Asterisk the safe house. and the sealed truth-told. Truck rolled over loose gravel and dirt, its headlights cutting a narrow path through the empty desert. Inside, Keanu sat in the passenger's seat, staring out into the night. Bishop drove, hands tight on the wheel, his left arm twitching slightly. A long-forgotten injury from a mission gone wrong. Keanu broke the silence. What do you mean by kill switch? Bishop sighed. When Phoenix ended, they knew people like you still existed. Soldiers with too much knowledge. So Echo created something to keep control, a neurological code, buried deep inside certain operatives. If triggered, it could erase memories, or worse. Keanu's jaw tightened. And Mia has this code? Bishop nodded. Yes, but not just as a subject. She was one of the few who figured out how to reverse it. She cracked the kill switch system. Keanu turned sharply. So they want her to fix their control system? No, Bishop said. They want her to never fix it. She's a threat to everything Echo built. They arrived at the safe house just before midnight. It was an old radio station hidden in the rocks, long abandoned, half buried in the sand. Bishop tapped a code into a rusted keypad. The steel door clicked, then creaked open. Inside was dust, silence, and scattered tech. Old comms equipment sat. On metal shelves, a few weapons lay hidden beneath tarps. Maps covered the walls, with red strings connecting places Keanu hadn't heard about in years. This place still works, Keanu asked. Bishop smirked. Barely, but we don't need long. Voss was already there. He'd taken a separate route, using an old military trail. He stood near the back, flipping through a folder of satellite photos. We found movement near the Sierra Pass, Voss said. A convoy unmarked, heavy escort, destination unknown. Bishop took one look and nodded. That's them. Keanu looked at the photo. A single van surrounded by black SUVs, tinted windows, military formation. Mia's inside. Keanu asked. I'd bet my life, Bishop said. Keanu's single quotes S voice dropped to a whisper. Then we don't have time. They studied the convoy's route, terrain maps, and likely checkpoints. They had one shot, intercept the vehicle at a narrow canyon pass, where the road curved into a blind turn. Voss pointed at the spot. Here, we box them in, disable the lead and rear vehicles. It'll trap the van in the middle. Then what? Bishop asked. Keanu looked at both men. I go in alone. Voss frowned. You sure about that? Keanu nodded. If she sees anyone in uniform, she'll think it's another trap. She'll run, or shut down. She'll recognize you. Bishop asked. Keanu's single quotes S voice softened. I hope so. The next morning, as the desert began to glow with sunrise, the three men loaded into separate vehicles. Their plan was quiet, fast, and without backup. If they failed, no one would come for them. Keanu sat in the back of an old Jeep, checking his gear. He carried no rifle, only a silenced sidearm and a small device with a single button. What's that? Bishop had asked earlier. Something she and I built as kids, Keanu said. A signal. The memories came rushing back. Him and Mia, sitting on their apartment floor, building a radio that could blink lights from one window to another. They had used it to send secret codes. 3 blinks for yes, 1 for no, 2 for danger. He tucked the device into his jacket. Please remember, he whispered. As the sun rose higher, the convoy appeared like a dark snake winding through the canyon. Voss's voice came through the radio. Lead car in sight. 10 seconds. Keanu crouched near a rock ledge above the pass. Below him, the vehicles rolled into the trap. Now, Voss whispered. 2 explosive charges lit up the canyon mouth. Not lethal, but enough to blow the tires. The lead and rear vehicles skidded and crashed into the canyon walls. The van in the middle slammed its brakes. Within seconds, chaos. Armed guards poured out, shouting, scanning the cliffs. Keanu moved fast, silent, focused. He dropped down the back ridge, using shadows and dust to cover his approach. He reached the van just as the guards circled around. Without sound, without waste, he disabled them both. Then he opened the van door, and there she was, strapped to a metal chair, arms bound, head down. Her hair was shorter, her frame thinner, but it was her. Mia, Keanu whispered, stepping inside. She looked up. Her eyes locked on his. For a second, Only a second. There was nothing. Then she blinked. 3 times. Keanu pulled out the small signal device and blinked it twice. Her eyes widened. Danger, he said softly. But I'm here. She stared at him. You're real? He smiled. You remember? Her voice cracked. I never forgot. He unstrapped her quickly, helped her out. She was weak, but her steps were steady. Gunfire echoed in the canyon as Voss and Bishop held off the remaining guards. Keanu guided her up the rocks. We've got a car waiting, he said. They said you were dead, Mia whispered. They were wrong, he replied. But just as they reached the ridge, a sharp crack filled the air. A bullet. Bishop, standing near the escape jeep, jerked backward, a red bloom spreading across his chest. No. Keanu shouted. He ran to him, catching Bishop as he fell. Voss provided cover fire. Bishop coughed, blood staining his shirt. I told you. I'd bet my life. Don't talk, Keanu said. But Bishop smiled faintly. She's safe now. That's enough. His hand gripped Keanu's once, then let go. Keanu closed Bishop's eyes. Mia knelt beside him, tears in her eyes. Who was he? Someone who carried the cost so others wouldn't have to, Keanu said. They drove away in silence. Bishop was gone, but Mia was alive, and Project Echo had just lost their prize. But Keanu knew it wasn't over, because Echo would come looking again, and next time they wouldn't stop. Hunted in day lithe desert heat wrapped around them like fire as Keanu, Mia, and Voss drove through the narrow backroads. They didn't speak much. There were no words that could hold the weight of what had just happened. Bishop was gone. He had saved their lives and paid for it with his own. Mia sat in the back seat, her hands trembling. Keanu glanced at her through the rearview mirror. She looked lost, like someone pulled out of a nightmare, but not yet sure if she was awake. You okay? He asked softly. Mia nodded, but her voice was quiet. I don't know who I am anymore. You're my sister, he said, and that's enough. Voss kept his eyes on the road. We can't go home. They'll be scanning the cities by now. Facial recognition, cell towers. We need to go dark. Keanu nodded. I know a place. It's not much, but no one will look there. 3 hours later, they pulled into an old mechanic shop on the edge of a ghost town. Sand covered the cracked signs. The windows were boarded up, but Keanu knew the way. He led them through the back, into a hidden cellar beneath the garage floor. I used to come here after Phoenix, he said, to think, to breathe. The underground space was small, a single light, a cot, some bottled water, and old radio parts. Mia looked around, confused and sad. You stayed here? She asked. For weeks at a time, Keanu said. It was the only place that didn't ask questions. Later that night, while Mia slept curled under a worn blanket, Keanu and Voss sat at a table nearby. An old map lay between them. Echo's not going to stop, Voss said. Even with Bishop gone, they've got funding, reach, and now revenge. Keanu traced a line across the map with his finger. We need to end it. Voss leaned forward. How? Keanu's eyes were cold. We cut the head off the snake. Mia woke up to the sound of soft static. She sat up and saw Keanu bent over a radio device, tuning the dials. She rubbed her eyes. You're trying to contact someone? She asked. Keanu looked over. No, I'm trying to find someone. He turned the radio to a secured military frequency, one he hadn't used in years. Ghost Hawk to signal Beacon Alpha, he said quietly. If you hear this, the ghost is alive. A pause, then static. And a voice. Ghost Hawk, confirm identity. Keanu's breath caught. Operation Talon, Sector 9, July 13. Code Red Evac. A pause. Then the voice again. Confirmed. You're supposed to be dead. Keanu smiled faintly. Yeah, but I got bored. What do you need? The voice asked. Eyes in the sky. Keanu said, I need a name. The next morning, they got it. The voice on the radio returned. Target name is Jared Stone. Former CIA, now Black Ops contractor. Listed as lead architect of Project Echo. Keanu froze. That name, it wasn't just a name from the files. It was a name from his past. From his failure. Voss saw his expression. You know him? Keanu nodded slowly. He's the one who burned Phoenix. Mia stepped closer, listening. He visited the site once, she whispered. The guards were afraid of him, like he could erase people with a phone call. Keanu clenched his fists. He doesn't just erase people. He builds them, rewires them, breaks them. Voss pointed at the map. He's stationed at a compound in Colorado, heavily guarded, private security, off-grid. Keanu stood up. Then we go there. Mia's voice cracked. We? Keanu turned to her. He did this to you, to Bishop, to all of us. I'm not asking you to come, but I won't leave you behind either. She hesitated, then nodded. Double quotes. I wanted to face him too, she said. That evening, they left the safe house in a different vehicle. No plates, no signals. Just them, 3 people carrying pain, purpose, and a growing fire inside. They traveled by night, staying off main roads, fueling at forgotten towns, hiding during the day. Each mile brought more tension, more memories. Mia finally spoke on the 3rd day. Do you remember when Dad taught us to fix radios? Keanu smiled faintly. Yeah, he always said, broken doesn't mean useless. Mia nodded. I think that's what kept me sane. Keanu looked at her in the mirror. You weren't broken. They just couldn't handle your strength. 2 nights later, they arrived at a small cabin near the Colorado border. It belonged to one of Voss's old teammates, a safe haven in the mountains. There, they prepared. Keanu sharpened his focus, cleaning the weapons. Voss marked entry points on a blueprint of the compound. Mia sat quietly, typing on an old laptop. What are you doing? Keanu asked. I'm writing code, she said, to crash their internal grid once we're inside. Keanu smiled. Dad would have been proud. She looked up. So would Mom. Keanu's face darkened slightly. I never got to tell her I was alive. Mia reached out and took his hand. She knew. Moms always know. Just before sunrise, they stood at the edge of a hilltop, overlooking the valley where the Echo compound hid. Black walls, motion sensors, guards with no insignias, helicopters, watchtowers. This is suicide, Voss muttered. Keanu looked at him. Then we'll make sure it's worth it. How do we get in? Mia asked. Keanu pulled out a black wristband. We let them capture. U.S. Voss blinked. You serious? They'll recognize my tattoo. They'll bring us inside. Straight to stone. Mia frowned. And then what? Keanu's voice was cold. Then I end this. As the sun crept over the mountains, they began walking toward the valley. No masks. No weapons in hand. No fear. Because sometimes the only way to break the system is from within it. Asterisk. The ghost returns. They walked slowly toward the black compound as the sun climbed higher behind them. Armed guards on the outer towers spotted them within minutes. Red lights flashed. Sirens wailed. Speakers crackled to life. Halt, a mechanical voice barked. You are entering restricted territory. Turn back or you will be fired upon. Keanu didn't stop, neither did Mia. Voss walked just behind them, hands raised. They were unarmed, unshielded, and completely exposed. Within seconds, black vehicles roared down the valley trail toward them. Dust exploded beneath the wheels. The 3 figures stood calmly in the center of the dirt road. The vehicles screeched to a stop. Men in dark armor jumped out, rifles drawn, eyes locked. Keanu slowly lifted his arm and rolled up his sleeve. The tattoo. The hawk. The serpent. The guards hesitated. One of them, clearly the leader, stepped closer. He looked at the mark, then at Keanu's face. His voice dropped. It's him. The others looked stunned. Their guns dropped an inch. Get the director, the guard ordered into his comm. They were taken inside without resistance. The black compound was colder than expected. Not in temperature, but in soul. Clean halls, white lights, walls with no windows. Silence wrapped around them like fog. Guards led them down narrow corridors. Cameras tracked every move. Where are we going? Mia asked softly. Keanu whispered. To the center. Where stone hides. Voss leaned in. You sure? This is going to work? Keanu didn't answer. He wasn't sure of anything, except one thing. He wasn't leaving without her. They were brought into a long room. White walls, black floor, no furniture, no mirrors. Only one chair in the center, and behind it, A man. Jared Stone. He hadn't aged much, still clean-cut, still sharp-eyed. His presence was like ice, controlled, calculated, and dangerously calm. He stood slowly as they entered. "Well," he said, "look who death forgot." Keanu stared at him. Stone smiled. "Ghost Hawk, I must admit, I never thought I'd see you again. You tried to erase me," Keanu said. "You failed." Stone chuckled. "We didn't fail. We just delayed the inevitable." His eyes turned to Mia. "And you were always the wild card. Brilliant, rebellious, too soft for your own good." Mia clenched her fists. "You turned my life into a cage," she said. Stone stepped closer, amused. "You think I ruined you? No, I made you better. I made you important." Keanu took a step forward. The guards raised their weapons. Stone waved. "Then down. It's fine," he said. "Let the ghost bark." Keanu's voice was low, steady. "I didn't come to bark. I came to bury you." Suddenly, Mia took out a small device, the one she had been working on in the cabin. She pressed a button. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. Doors locked. Stone turned sharply. "What did you do?" "Reset," Mia whispered. Keanu smiled. "She wrote a virus. It's crawling through your entire system right now, wiping your servers, your backups, your control nodes." Stone's face twisted. "Impossible." Voss stepped forward. "Your weapons disabled, your drones offline, your satellites blind." Stone reached for a switch behind the wall, a last attempt to trigger the kill switch remotely. But Keanu was already there. He slammed the man back against the wall hard. "No more switches," Keanu said. Stone gasped. "You think this ends with me?" Keanu nodded slowly. "Yes, because I'm done hiding. And the world is about to know exactly who you are." Stone laughed through the pain. "The world doesn't care. They'll forget by morning." Mia stepped forward. Her voice was calm but heavy. "Maybe, but you'll be gone before they do." She held up a tiny vial. "Neuro inhibitor," she said. "Courtesy of your own lab." Stone's eyes widened. "You wouldn't. You gave this to children," she said. "I'll sleep just fine." She injected it before he could scream. His body jerked. Then collapsed. Stone was still alive, but barely. His mind, however, would never wake again. Keanu and Voss helped Mia out of the building. The compound was falling apart from the inside. Systems down, doors open. Some guards ran. Others simply dropped their weapons, as if realizing they had been guarding ghosts. As they walked out into the sunlight, helicopters flew overhead. UN forces. Whispers had been spreading for days, about echoes in the dark, about survivors, about a ghost who came back to tell the truth. 2 weeks later, Keanu sat quietly on a bench near a small lake. Birds chirped. The wind was soft. Mia sat beside him. "So, what now?" she asked. He looked at the water. "We live." "You think they'll come after us again?" she asked. He shook his head. "No, they've already lost. The truth is out. Stone's name, the files, everything." Mia smiled faintly. "Feels strange, being free." Keanu nodded. "Yeah, strange, but good." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You saved me." He looked down at her. "You saved yourself," he said. "I just walked beside you." Far away, at the same shooting range where it all began, Lance Corporal Jeff Michaels read a newspaper headline: "Ghost of Phoenix exposes secret program." Director Jared Stone in critical care. He smiled, folded the paper, and whispered, "Told you he was real." He looked out toward the range. The sun hit the sand the same way it did that first morning, but something had changed. A legend had returned, and left behind something even stronger than fear: truth.